Hello and welcome to Mumming It, the podcast where we chat all things parenthood. I'm Harriet Shearsmith and I am indeed mumming it in my way with my 3 kids, but I want to know what that looks like for other parents. If you like the podcast, don't forget to check out my book, also called Mumming It, available in all good bookshops and online. Hi everyone and welcome back to Mumming It. Today's guest is a very special guest who I'm really excited to talk to. She is currently expecting her first baby, a model, and someone who I am really looking forward to chatting with, all about pregnancy and how things are going for her. So it is Laura Goodwin. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to have a good chat.
This is what I love about podcasting. You know, I've just said this to you beforehand, that it is just a really nice chat and it just feels like sitting down for a cuppa with a friend. It's lovely.
Yeah.
First off, for people who might not know who you are, talk to me about the things that you do, what you're known for, and all about yourself.
So I am a model. Officially speaking, my agency refer to me as a curve model. Previously, I think the terminology was always plus size model. Obviously, that's changed over the years I've been doing it. I've been modeling now for over 10 years, and I have spoken many times about body positivity and body confidence and just learning to be really happy with yourself. Yeah, I also do invest in property and I do a lot of renovation work, which is kind of like my outside love and passion. And I have also just launched a photography studio as well, which is like a brand new business that I've just set up during my pregnancy. So yeah, a bit of everything now at the moment.
Oh, that's awesome. We renovated our home and honestly, the stress, it was so much fun, but also stressful. And we were kind of living in like just the living room and everything else was being done. And then in all of my wisdom, I was like, do you know what? The living room really does need doing as well. So moved everybody upstairs and was like, we've got no kitchen, we've got no washing machine, we've got nothing, we've got no cooker.
Oh, bless you.
Add in the living room. It was chaos, but it was so much good fun.
I think once you start kind of working on the house, you notice all the other things that you could change, right? So you've started working everywhere else, and then you said, actually, the living room might need a little love as well. And you get drawn in, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You realise that a little tweak there wouldn't matter too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, it goes from being tweaking to just being completely ripping everything out. No. So how many properties have you actually transformed? How many have you done?
So I'm working on my 3rd at the moment. In the middle of lockdown, we were actually doing my 2nd, which is where we live, so our home. And we did a top to toe renovation, everything. I mean, we gutted it from the ground up. Yeah. We started before lockdown and then obviously had all the knock-on effect of lockdown. So you couldn't get plaster, you couldn't get half the materials that we needed. We were worrying about working conditions for obviously the tradesmen that were coming in. So yeah, it was a really interesting time to do it. But yeah, we're almost there now.
Yeah, it was really funny because we needed our back garden. So when we did our property, we stopped short of doing the gardens. There wasn't that much that we needed doing upstairs. So we didn't really do much upstairs, but the whole downstairs transformed and we built an annex. We completely extended the back half of the house. So the whole thing was
amazing.
Completely transformed. It was wonderful. An experience that my husband says he will never repeat. It was good fun, as stressful as it was. And when we stopped, the gardens were like completely destroyed because they were covered in concrete and things. But we decided that rather than just keep going, we would wait and then we would invest in what we actually wanted to do to the garden as opposed to trying to do it on a budget.
Yeah.
So we held off. And at the very beginning of lockdown, somebody was meant to be coming to do the garden. And then, of course, everybody got shut down.
No.
Nightmare. So the kids during lockdown, they had no garden or anything because it was mud and concrete and rubble and it was so bad. And then when we wanted to book someone, about 2/3 of the way through this whole debacle, every single tradesman that we went to was booked up. And you're nodding your head.
Yeah, furiously nodding my head. I know exactly where you were at.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing. Did you find that when you were doing all your renovating, that just everybody seemed to be booked up all of a sudden?
We did struggle with the garden. We had exactly what you had. I think the men that were working inside, they had no care for the garden, right? They just said, anything that we don't want just gets dumped out there. And we had no lawn left. We'd done an extension renovation as well. They'd had diggers in there. So it was a complete dumping ground. And we absolutely couldn't get any gardeners. Everyone was booked up. I think because everyone was in lockdown, they became so aware that if they could have this nice outdoor space, let's invest in it. So the gardeners and the sort of landscaping guys were booked up for months in advance. Something that I think I had never realized was so difficult before was getting a carpenter. So we couldn't get doors on. We were changing all the doors, and all the old doors had gone. So they were like kind of glass panel doors, you know, where it's like a whole sheet of glass. Yeah. And we were advised they were like old and not that safe and whatever. So they'd all been removed. We didn't have a single door in the house, and we couldn't get a carpenter to hang the door. There are very, very high demand carpenters in East London. So if anyone's looking for a new trade, I highly advise looking into it. You can't get one for love nor money. But yeah, we got there in the end somehow.
No doors at all on any room. So you did like toilets, bathrooms, and it's you and your partner.
Yeah. When we first started the work, we actually moved into my mother-in-law's because she was out of the country. And then during lockdown, some of his family actually were back. And so there was more pressure for us to get into our own house. So when we moved in, we didn't have the kitchen sink, we didn't have a kitchen worktop, and we didn't have any doors or window coverings at all. So we used screens, you know, the folding screens. Yeah. Amazon was my best friend. I ordered a lot of folding screens from Amazon. And it was a case of like, pull that over the door. Yeah. But we got there.
I mean, that's definitely one way to prepare yourself for the parenthood that is coming, because there is no privacy once the kids arrive. I've threatened mine quite profusely this evening and be like, right, you are in bed. You do not come unless there is an emergency. And I feel to caveat that and be like, right, guys, only in an emergency, because I panic and I'm like, what if something happens? And they're sat there going, well, she did say not.
Yeah, she said, don't come.
She said, don't come, and all sorts of things are kicking off upstairs like some kind of Home Alone rerun. I'd said, don't come to me unless there is an emergency. And my youngest looked at me and I could see her smiling, and she was like, but what's an emergency, mummy? And I looked at her and I went, it is not that you cannot read one of the words in your book. That's what it is. Oh. You could just see in her face, it's exactly what she said. It is not that has died either. Like, mummy's busy time. So yes, you're definitely well prepared then for lack of privacy.
I'm glad to hear that because obviously I think when you're pregnant with your first baby, a lot of people are like, oh goodness me, you've no idea what it's going to be, and you start to think, wow, I really don't have any idea, and maybe I'm not that prepared for it. Maybe there are a lot of things that I will have to adjust to very, very quickly. So when anyone says, oh actually that might have been good preparation, I think, oh yes, I've got something going here.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's an awful lot of scaremongering I find when you're pregnant. When I was pregnant, and like when I was pregnant with number 3 as well, people would come to me and be like, you have no idea what you're in for. It's going to be outnumbered now. And I'm like, geez. But there's so much scaremongering around it. If you've had quite a lot of comments that you've just thought, oh no, this is not what I need to hear.
I have, and I think probably everyone goes into having their first baby with a little bit of over optimism, right? I'm sure that as a mum of 3, you can listen to what I'm saying and think, no, you'll learn a few things pretty quickly. And I completely understand that. I think on the other hand, there are probably elements of my job over the years that have helped. So traveling, sleeping on a plane for 3 hours overnight and things like that have probably in ways given me a little bit of prep into the lack of sleep. And also in ways, it's not the same as having a child, I completely appreciate, but having a lot of time around other people. You know, in my job, you're always kind of surrounded by people, and in the nature of the job, people kind of touching you and fiddling with your clothes and touching your hair and your face, and all that stuff just doesn't bother me at all. So I'm hopeful that after those years of never really having too much time to relax, until COVID, of course, because obviously that locked us all down and forced us to stay at home. But until then, I think that kind of decade of being on the go, hopefully, has given me a little bit of prep, I think.
I don't see why it wouldn't. And it's funny that you say that about always having people touching you and being in your personal space, because that's not something that generally you would come across in most jobs, is it? And I think you're somebody in particular who is used to that time alone and is used to having your personal space and having that me time, and that divide that makes it really difficult when suddenly this little person comes along and is like constantly attached to you 24/7. So interested to see whether or not you take what you've had over the last 10 years and go, actually, this is not too dissimilar in a totally different way, but not too dissimilar
Yeah.
from what I've been used to.
Yeah, I hope so.
How have you been feeling throughout this pregnancy then? So this is pregnancy number 1, and you are how
Yeah.
many weeks now?
I am 31 weeks now. So not that long left. It's strange. It feels like it's gone quickly and slowly at the same time. I don't know if that's something that you felt with your pregnancies. I have heard that it's particularly like a first pregnancy thing, that, you know, it feels really long. And then maybe when you have your second, you probably just know what to expect. So maybe it feels like it goes a bit quicker. Anyone who asks me this question, I'd say I always start with, I am so, so happy that I'm pregnant. I'm having a little girl and I'm absolutely over the moon. But I have probably found pregnancy challenging in ways that I didn't maybe think I would. And I've been quite lucky. I haven't had like, you know, extreme morning sickness or anything like that. But I think probably having worked as a plus size or curve model for so long, and, you know, I'm someone that has always struggled with their weight. And that's something that I've been used to from sort of 12, 13, and I've really adjusted to it and grown very comfortable with myself. But I think then actually being pregnant, it's such a different body experience, right? I don't know if you felt this way, but it's truly the first time in my life where I feel like I genuinely don't have any control. Because previously it's like, okay, yeah, I've struggled with my weight, but I could maybe be a little bit more active if I wanted to, or, you know, I had some kind of flexibility, and I'd also adjusted to my shape as it was. And yeah, I found that a really unexpected, and I feel almost a little bit disappointed in myself having felt that way. But then I think it's because I just didn't mentally prepare for it, really. So I would say I've kind of come full circle now, where at this stage I'm like, okay, I'm really thankful that my body's doing what it needs to do, and I'm so grateful that it can do it. But yeah, I think it's something actually that's more of an issue for women than I would have realized before.
It's really interesting that you've said all this, because the amount of people that I speak to who are exactly the same, who found pregnancy and the changing of their body, because it doesn't matter, I don't think, what size you are, what shape you are, who you are, how confident you are, your body goes through so many changes during pregnancy. And it can be a real shock to the system. But funnily enough, for me, as someone who always really struggled with her weight, and like you say, probably from the age of about 10 to 12, that kind of time, I was very much the same. I struggled with my weight. I was always felt like I was the fat kid. I always felt like there was something wrong with me. And it took me a long time to find that confidence within myself. And I certainly didn't find it by the time I was pregnant with number 1 or number 2 or number 3. It was afterwards. But the only time that I actually felt really happy with my body and with my curves and my bigger boobs and my belly and my hips was when I was pregnant. It was almost like,
Really?
I expect to be larger when I'm pregnant, so I'm happy.
Right.
Whereas any other time, and I wouldn't even eat the slice of toast after I had Toby, because
Oh.
so determined that I was going to be thin again.
Oh no.
No, I was so...
Oh, bless you.
Number 1, actually, I wasn't too bad. But then by number 2, I was really hardcore into the diet mindset. And I, you know, smallest baby, because I didn't eat as much throughout the pregnancy, thinking, right, I must...
Oh, yeah, bless you.
When I got to the 39-week weigh-in, because I'd gained a stone, which is the smallest amount to have gained throughout an entire... But I didn't see it that way, and I was so blindsided by it. But what I loved throughout every pregnancy was the bump and was the differences in my body, because it almost felt to me like these are differences I've been excited to have all my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at them in the negative mindset that I've always been taught you should have when you've got extra weight or you've got a different body size to what you see in the magazines or used to see in the magazines when I was growing up. So it's really interesting that you see it from the other side, and the amount of people that I speak to that are the same.
Yeah, I'd say, I've sort of fallen in this strange middle ground between what you're saying as well, that I haven't restricted myself in any way. That's probably why I feel like I've gained quite a lot of weight, but I've really lent into, you know, if I feel like I should be eating this, or if I need more milk, or I want loads of carbs or whatever, I've really lent into it. And I don't think there's any danger of me having a small baby, given I've really lent into the craving. So I don't think there's any worry there. And I'm not unhappy having a bump or anything like that. I think it's more just seeing my shape change so drastically and say, okay, well, you know, I don't know how it might be afterwards. I guess in ways it's almost that I feel actually like I understand a group of people maybe better than I even did before, because I think even in the sort of body positivity and now the body neutrality, which is the term I actually really like, but the sort of body positivity neutrality kind of community, it can be difficult sort of falling as a bit of an in-between size, right? And I can understand that sometimes some of the women of larger dress sizes can be a bit offended by some of what the in-between kind of sizes say. And it was always a difficult one for me because I felt on an emotional level that I really understood anything any woman of any size said, right? Because ultimately, I don't think it's actually the size that you ever are. I think it's just how it affects you. And it's all relative. The girl who's a size 8, for example, that feels insecure, she feels as insecure in her own way as someone that's a bigger size and vice versa. But the one thing that I would say is that I realize that there are a group of women and men that maybe really don't have as much control over their bodies for various reasons. You know, it can be health related, all kinds of things. And I didn't have some of those considerations. Whereas now I'm like, okay, I actually can understand how, you know, for example, my boobs have gotten so much bigger, right? And before they were already quite big, but now I feel like, okay, I understand a group of women with even, I say even, but like I'm already like a full cup size.
Yeah, so I think it's just given me like a different perspective. And I think the other side of it is that I don't know if you know Louise Boyce, who has an account called Mama Still Got It. Yeah. So I've known Louise for years, actually, through modelling and one thing or another. And when she was pregnant, she kind of did this campaign for companies to use actually pregnant women, right?
I remember this. It was brilliant.
And like as a non-pregnant woman at the time, I could understand, of course, where she was coming from, but maybe I didn't feel what profound impact that really would have for women who were pregnant. And I don't think I ever imagined kind of going into pregnancy that you could almost have this like body ideal for how you should look when you were pregnant. Right. And then I think actually in the process of being pregnant and you realize like, oh, okay, well, I love my bump and I'm very happy to have one, but maybe it doesn't look like other ladies' bumps on Instagram, or, you know, I'm looking for maternity clothes and I go on ASOS, for example, like the girls that are modeling this maternity wear have the most perfect bump and everything else is just their normal size, right? Because they've got this strapped on bump. And I'm like, I cannot tell how that's going to look on me when I get that home and I put my double J cup bust in that dress. It's going to look so different. And so I think actually now I'm really in the position where I can say Louise was spot on. I mean, really, it is a really strange thing to strap a fake bump onto someone and say, go show ladies what they're buying, you know, but
it is. It's such a strange thing, isn't it? And I remember that campaign. I want to say I was pregnant with one of the kids when that campaign was going. And I remember looking at it and thinking, yeah, actually, because you do have this ideal of what this perfect, beautiful bump will look like, and it'd be nice and neat and it'll look this way. And they all look, as with everything with everybody, they all look totally different. And how your body changes and moves and is different. So it would be to see an actual pregnant person modelling maternity wear. So I remember that campaign and I loved it at the time and still think it's relevant now. I'll go on ASOS and I see a dress that I like and it's not regular section, I'll buy it from the maternity section. It's never bothered me.
Yes.
But I notice now I quite often see Love Island stars modelling it and I'll look and I think, I didn't know she was pregnant, and then Google it and I'm like, no, she's not pregnant. It's just
she's wearing a bump. Yeah.
Wearing a fake bump. And it never even occurred to me that people would be wearing fake bumps until Louise's campaign. So I totally seen there, and it makes such a difference to how you perceive what you should be like when you're pregnant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was kind of on the other side of it prior to being pregnant, because I understood the logistics of actually having pregnant women shoot, right? Because the shoots are planned in advance. You don't know how pregnant the model's going to be. And I can understand it from a simplicity point of view. But then I do think it's such a weird space that now we even kind of police our bodies when we're pregnant, right? And we're even saying like, oh, we're critical of it just doing this amazing job that it was designed to do. And so really having to like remind myself all the time, like, this is what your body needs to do. You know, your bust is going to grow, it's going to do everything that it needs to do to give you a healthy baby. And I think, you know, obviously Instagram is the worst, right? Because once you start looking at anything, you're getting so much content thrown your way. So the minute I was pregnant, obviously I'm Googling things about pregnancy. My Instagram knows that. My whole explore page changed. And there's just some really, really glamorous pregnant women out there. I think maybe some of them unfortunately do fall into the headspace that you had with your second child, where they're are very, very conscious about what they're gaining, which is such a shame. But I can see how it happens because there's so much pressure, right? And so many people have said to me, don't worry, you'll be back in your clothes in no time. And it's almost like it's actually not helpful. People are being so kind when they say it. They really are. And it's meant with the best intentions. But we're not all going to get back into our pre-pregnancy clothes. And that's perfectly fine. And it's almost like coaching yourself to say, okay, that's irrelevant. When I've had the baby safely and healthily, I'll wear whatever I need to wear and approach it that way. And if I'm too tired to work out, I'm too tired to work out, and that's perfectly fine. Rather than going into it like, this is what I'll need to do, you know, because everyone's saying I will get back to the way that I was before. It doesn't matter. It's not important.
So important that that message really gets out there, because from the second that you are pregnant, you start to be bombarded with this, how to get back into shape, how to bounce back, what a term. And I think something that I remember even in the hospital, and I can't remember which one of the boys I'd had, I do think it was my first, the bounty bags had things like Slimming World and Weight Watchers next to them. Yeah, and I just remember thinking, you are targeting a market of people who have been conditioned really to feel pressure about their body already. And then on top of that, I've got all these hormones ping-ponging around. I'm tired and are, you know, got so many other things on their mind. And you're there going, yeah, but you shouldn't eat that. Just so unhelpful and so unnecessary. You know, our bodies have changed because we've given birth to an actual human being. Like,
exactly.
Feel when you think about it, you have this new human being who you're caring for 24/7. They're everything. The last thing on your mind really needs to be whether or not you're fitting in the clothes of the you beforehand. It certainly was for me with most of my pregnancies. I would dare to say all of them, to be fair. I was a bit better,
really,
but with all of them, especially with Toby, I was obsessed with getting back into my pre-pregnancy jeans and that kind of thing. I was so proud when I did at 2 weeks, at a complete detriment.
Oh, bless you.
So it's really important that that message gets out there, that that's not the priority, and that actually taking care of yourself and your new baby in whatever way that looks like for you. As you say, if you're too tired to work out, don't. If you feel like it, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really key. For me, it's something that always kind of fluctuates. Like even before I've been pregnant, you know, sometimes I really do want to work out and sometimes I don't want to work out, and sometimes I'm, you know, more mindful of what I'm eating and other times I'm not. And I think, you know, that's normal, it's natural. And I think particularly if I can imagine after I've had a baby and your body's been through labor, right, which in itself is apparently extremely tiring, and you get home and you're learning everything for the first time, like you shouldn't feel like your mind has to be focused on, I'm going to be back in my size whatever, skinny jeans in just a couple of weeks. It's just, we shouldn't feel that that's the thing. And I hope that for anyone that comes across me while I'm pregnant, or, you know, is looking at my content, that is something that I'm getting across, because I do have quite a love-hate relationship with Instagram at times where, you know, we do always put forward like the best of everything, right? And I think it's something that I was conscious of before we tried for a baby, was what is the world like for a daughter now? Like for a young girl, right? And particularly maybe doing what I do and in the way that I do it, having been, you know, in the plus size kind of curve world and touching on body positivity and all this kind of things. And I had real concerns about, like, you know, social media and its impact on young people in general, but particularly I think with girls, with some of the pressure of, you know, surgery and filters and fillers and all the things that are out there and what has become quite normalized. So yeah, I really, really hope that I'm always sharing stuff that is not making people feel that way, essentially, that is helping people feel like I can just be me and I can, you know, focus on what's important in life and not worry about what this person looks like or what size they are or their bounce back or their glow up or anything like that. So hopefully helping to foster like a nice supportive environment.
And I think you do that, and it's always been a goal of mine as well, to kind of show the good with the bad, because like you say, it is a one-sided place at times. I like the term highlight reel, because quite often people do use highlight reel, you know, especially at times like the summer holidays. People have said to me before, I feel awful because I've done nothing with the kids and I keep seeing all these wonderful days out and trips here and doing this. And actually that's because they're the things that people want to remember, so they're popping that on there, not necessarily putting on there the time when their kid was in an absolute dick and rolling around. I think again we do that with our positive moments when we like the picture of ourselves when we feel really good about ourselves. And often we're not showing that other side of when we're curled up on the sofa and we're just in a big comfy tracksuit and we're just feeling really snuggly, and it's not glamorous and it's just real life. So I think that's something I've always really wanted to try and do with my own social media as well, is get that.
Yeah.
And especially I have a daughter and she's 6 now. And I look at some of the things that she sees and think, is that going to be helpful for her when she's that bit older?
Yeah, that's what's great. I mean, I love your page and the reels, especially. Like, it's so engaging and so authentic as well, which I think it's just so uncommon. And I feel like there's this strange middle ground. I don't know if you notice it, but where it's authentic, but for Instagram. I feel like I see that quite a lot now. And I struggle with that a bit because it's like kind of this weird middle space where it's very cultivated and curated, but then it's kind of positioned as authentic. And that's why I love your content. Again, Louise, I love her content as well. Mama's still got it. I think as someone that's just entering slowly the kind of parent forum, to see some of those things is really great, because also I feel like I'm going into it informed and equipped as well. Like, it's nice to see a beautiful glowing photo of a family with their children perfectly presented, right? That's lovely. But it doesn't give me an idea of what I'm letting myself in for. So I really appreciate when mums share their children kind of not driving them mad, but testing patience, and all the stories about their kids following them into the bathroom and all these things, because it just lets me be informed going into what I'm doing, right? So I love that.
In a lot of ways, I wish I'd been on Instagram, because Ruben's my first, and he's 10 and a half now, and I often look and think I felt isolated. I was one of the first of my friendship to be pregnant. I worked at Mothercare at the time, so I was quite well positioned.
Yeah.
But it's just a totally different thing, where you don't necessarily see as much of the realistic day-to-day, the temper tantrums, like you say, the following into the bathroom. And I wish it had been there to give me those moments and to build that community.
Yeah.
On a totally different note, because you mentioned it earlier, you said about cravings. Have you had any weird cravings?
Do you know what? I wouldn't say I've had weird cravings. Maybe they'll come later. I have had aversions. I think that's a better word to describe what I've been through. Yeah, so I was a massive chocoholic before I was pregnant. I could go a day without a piece of chocolate, but I didn't like to do it. And I tried all the sort of, moving over to dark chocolate, just have the one square, blah, blah, blah. But chocolate had to feature in my life in some way. And then all of a sudden I'm pregnant and I can't stand the taste of chocolate, which was, I feel like I didn't know myself. I was so confused. I was like, this is not the Laura that, I've spent 30 odd years with. So I've just now kind of got back to enjoying chocolate, which is a weird thing to say, because maybe I should have just said goodbye to it while I had the chance, but I just felt, too important to me. So I've just got back on that, but I've done probably 25, 30 weeks of hating it. And just to be honest, before I wasn't like someone that would wake up and think, oh, a piece of toast. But I think the carb thing, I don't know if you experienced that, or different people have different theories, right? It's because it's a girl, or it's because it's your first, or whatever. But, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, a toasted bagel would be really good right now. Whereas I never really felt that way.
What food do I wish for today? When I was pregnant with Toby, it was Kit Kat, and I'd never been a big Kit Kat.
Really?
Oh, I liked a Kit Kat. Everybody likes a Kit Kat, but I'd never been like, I must have a Kit Kat. And I was every single day in my pregnancy.
Really?
I didn't really gain any weight with that. I was quite obsessive with, but Kit Kat, after I finished work, I would drive to the petrol station and get one every single time.
To be fair, actually, now that you're saying that, I had this strange moment last week where I could not stop thinking about Mars bar ice creams.
I was going to say Mars bar ice creams was another one that I like, but I think that's just because I like Mars bar ice creams.
Like, I do like them, but I can't say it's like, it's not something that we have in the house, right? It's something that I've had and I've really enjoyed it, but it's not something that I think about maybe as often as now. And I literally was sitting there one day and I was like, I've got to have a Mars bar ice cream. I've absolutely got to have one. So I went to the supermarket, got a 4-pack, came back, and it was a really hot day and they'd melted in the car in like 10 minutes. So then I hit Deliveroo and I thought some kind of, convenience store or food delivery everything, we'll have them completely sold out, right? And in the end, we had to do like a little drive-by and go to all the sort of convenience stores in the area and just find like one single Mars bar ice cream somewhere, because it was so real, right? The need was so real. And I couldn't even quite explain it to my fiance, but I was like, no, I can't stop thinking about it, and I'm not going to be able to till I've had it. And I think maybe before you're pregnant, you think, oh yeah, cravings, it's probably something you just kind of want. No, they're so real.
Weird, isn't it? It's like something that just makes you think all of a sudden, no, I need that. That is a need. That's in my diet. And I didn't like peanut butter before I was pregnant, and then developed a like for peanut butter. And it wasn't a particular craving. It was just I'd had something with peanut butter on it one day and was like, no, I like that now. Even down to your taste buds, so much of your body and everything changes, that even down to your taste buds, which is so bizarre.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm learning very quickly, is how much of your body changes, right? And even just like, I don't know how you found sleeping when you were pregnant, but that's probably like the other side of what I'm really struggling with. So I would say that I am a 100% back sleeper. I love sleeping on my back. It's how I'm comfortable. And I knew that it was going to be difficult. The hospital said, try sleeping on your side. From, I think it was about 14 weeks, they sort of mentioned it. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to train myself. Like, I need to start now. They told me it didn't really matter till I think sort of later in the second trimester, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to. So then it was a case of like really propping myself on my side and creating this fort with the cushions and everything. And yeah, even just like the way that your body aches and all the muscles move. And I mean, it is amazing. Like, it's an amazing feat of engineering, right? That we can do what we do. Sometimes I do wonder how women do it again and again, if I'm honest, because I think you must kind of forget, right? After you've given birth.
They put the baby on you and it's like, I could do this again. This is lovely. And you
really?
Well, I certainly did anyway. I was sat there like, I remember turning to my husband when I just had, I think it was Toby. And I turned to him and I was like, when we have the next one. And he was just sat there like, she is insane. You've given her too much gas in her. She's not allowed to talk right now. Don't it? But a next one? Are you okay?
That is so funny. So many people say that they literally have one and they're like, I need the next one. When are we having the next baby?
I know. And I did. I was like, when we have the next one, I want to do it this way. And he just looked at me and was like,
oh, bless you.
Yeah, cool.
But you did have another.
I did have another one. Yes, I did. And I did actually, in fairness, after I'd given birth to Edith, look at him and go, no.
Really? So that's your cut off 3.
Yeah, I've struggled with it because sometimes I've thought, would I like another one? But our family feels complete. And I'd never say never, but I think with the 3 and the youngest is 6 now, and I just feel like we are nice. I think you instinctively know when you've reached.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, so maybe not. But I think my husband probably reached that point after number 1. He was like, how many? He was always like, 2 will do, thank you. And I twisted his arm to 3. And as somebody who always wanted 5, I think we came into a nice compromise.
So you wanted 5?
I did.
You wanted 5.
What's wrong with me?
I feel like you'd be outnumbered then. Yeah, I think I liked the idea of 3 probably until 2 or 3. I think beyond 3, I think I would struggle a little bit. I admire someone that can kind of keep everything going with 4 children. I'm probably at that point in pregnancy where I'm like, 1 is a really nice number. And my fiance is like, no way. Like, no, we're going to have another one. And I'm like, So when my friends tell me, the minute they actually gave birth, they were already thinking about the next one, I'm sure I will be the same. But I think you reach that kind of 3rd trimester heaviness, and it's been kind of warm and humid, and you're like, no, 1, an only child would be great. I can really concentrate my energies.
Whether or not you're going to be the mum who has the baby plopped on your chest and thinks forward to baby number 2, 3, whatever, or whether you're going to be the person that has the baby plopped on their chest and thinks this has put me off, whatever you're going to be at that moment in time, every single person I think has a part of pregnancy and goes, I'm not keen. This is really hard. I remember saying to a family member, I was about 35 weeks pregnant, and I remember saying, how bad would it be if I went into labour now? Because I'll be honest, I'm really really bad. Like, this is really early. You'd need at least 2 or 3 weeks. Like, no. And I just remember thinking, I'm done. Like, this is really hard work on my body, and it's taxing, and I'm tired and aching, fed up, and I'm a tummy sleeper. So my tummy, so you can imagine I had the same problem as you, as trying to like train to be able to sleep on my side. And I also found through pregnancy I had really bad nightmares, which I when I'm hormonal around my period, I get nightmares.
Yeah.
And not terrible, but when I was pregnant, I found it quite difficult.
Yeah.
I would get it quite a lot. I say nightmares, but it was more really vivid dreams, like everything was in
that. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, it really felt like it's real, even if it's not scary, or it's just, you think that was something that happened in your week, right? You wake up and you're like, was that a dream? Or did they know that happened? It was too real. It can't have been a dream.
That's it, that kind of thing. And I mean, sometimes it would be nightmares, but not, it was more that it was vivid. Weird the way that it affects your body and your mind and everything.
Yeah.
So what is it that you are looking forward to when baby does arrive?
My best friend, she's got a little boy, and she loved pregnancy. And then I think actually the labor, she didn't really, maybe she went into it kind of thinking the less I know, the better. And then maybe regretted that a little bit, and then hadn't thought so much about the bit after labor, right? Whereas I think I've spent most of my pregnancy looking forward to that bit. So as much as I'm like, oh, pregnancy, and I probably feel the way that you felt around 34, 35 weeks, where I'm like, oh, it would be great if she was early. Like, I'm ready to go. Bring me that bit. So I'm really excited. I know it's going to be tough. And as you say, like, a lot of people do the scaremongering. Oh, you're not going to get any sleep, and it's going to be really hard, and all the nappies and things like that. I'm not at all comparing having a child to having a dog, but we do have a dog, and I love having the dog. And people said to me before I got the dog, are you sure? It's a commitment. And, it is, but I absolutely wouldn't change it for the world. So I think some of the things that maybe friends have warned me about actually don't faze me at all. And I think in ways, I don't know if you felt this way. I'm hoping it's a first pregnancy thing, but I'm very, very conscious of not doing anything while I'm pregnant that's wrong, right? So like when they told you not to have caffeine, I really took it seriously, don't want to take any paracetamol. Like, I've probably been that person that's like, I won't forgive myself, right, if I do something that could be wrong at all. So I think I'm looking forward to kind of being able to relax and have her here and take on those kind of challenges of that, but feel like, okay, I can see her now and look after her and love her and, do all those fun things, and not worry so much about, oh gosh, I've woken up on my back again, or, did I lie on my back for too long, or was that cup of tea definitely decaf? So yeah, I'm really excited to have her here. We've ordered the pram, we've got the changing table, we've got the crib. So yeah, we're just really excited to throw ourselves in.
I think it is a really exciting time. I mean, I loved being pregnant. I loved that first period where, in your own little bubble, really. So many people said to me, and we didn't do it with number one, and it was such a mistake. And I kind of say to everybody now, was to stay in that little bubble. I think that was something that I wish we'd have done more with number one, and that I made sure we did with number three, because it made such a difference to just enjoy having our little family. And, if people were like, oh, we want to come and see baby, and we weren't quite ready, we would say, no, I'll send you a photo, and that kind of thing. And it was really special, especially with Edith. We kind of learnt through mistakes and learnt that, as wonderful as it is to show your new off and to be like, look what I did. Really nice to be able to love them and bundle themselves up and take care of yourself. That phase for me, where it was just us as a family, was really I loved that. I thought it was great. And yeah, it was hard. Edith came home. They kept me in hospital overnight because the boys were poorly when she was born.
Oh.
And they both got the random illnesses that toddlers tend to get. They were 3 and 2 and a bit. And they'd both kind of come down with fevers and weren't feeling very well, and that kind of thing.
Literally like the worst timing for you, right?
Very first night we had her home, both boys were in bed with her. Got both of them in bed up and down like yo-yos, and then she was feeding. I said to Adam at the time, I feel like we've had the very worst that this could offer us thrown out the very first night. It's only up from here, like, going to be fine. But it really was. It threw us into the deep end. I don't think we had anyone round for the first 2 weeks, really, because we were just like, we all need to recuperate. So it was really nice to stay in our bubble. So bubbles are the best.
I think that's the thing. I'm due at the end of October October, I mean, although I probably, you know, given the opportunity to time it, maybe I wouldn't be pregnant in the heat, right? Maybe I wouldn't be pregnant through the summer. Although the UK summer's been really kind to me this year. It's not exactly been a heat wave like last year, has it? So it's worked out quite well. And then at the end of October, hopefully she is kind of on time. I don't really want to go over given the choice, but hopefully she'll be on time. And then I'm just seeing it as like just 8 weeks to Christmas, just enjoying and being at home and, you know, feeling like you can just get cozy at home and have that time, because I think that is some really good advice that, you know, everyone's kind of said. Enjoy being at home with the baby. Don't put pressure on yourself. Don't feel like you have to have people around all the time. You know, you need what you need, and you need to be able to relax and just kind of find some routine for yourself. So I'm going to try and keep that advice really close and just stay at home and be in the bubble.
Oh, lovely. How have you found things like picking names?
Oh, so it's so funny that you said that, because we found the name thing a real responsibility. I'm sure everyone does. And we're very like, oh gosh, you know, it's important that we get this right. My fiance's family, he grew up in the UK, but his family are Nigerian. So we want to try and incorporate something, you know, cultural in that sense. Actually, my agent gave me some really sound advice. And she said, when you have an idea what you want to name your child, don't share it with anyone. She said, I made the mistake of telling my mother-in-law the name that I'd picked for my son, and she didn't like it, and I still wanted to go ahead with it, and I couldn't forget that she didn't like it, right? So I've held that close to my chest. But I was actually on a shoot yesterday, and the photographer said, have you seen the baby name Tinder app? No. And I was like, no, I've never heard of this. And she was like, oh, it's genius. You know, you download it, your partner downloads it, you get sent names and you swipe right or left if you like them or you don't. And then you get alerted when you get a match, right? Which I thought was so genius, because there's that strange pressure, right? Where you like a name and then maybe they don't really like it and you're trying to explain, you know, and this way it was like, we don't actually have to really discuss the names. You can say if you like it on your app, I can say if I like it on mine, and then we'll go through the matches. Both of us downloaded that yesterday and had a good go. And we're up to like 7 matches now, which is really great, I think. That's a good rate of match.
That is impressive. Now, when Adam and I were discussing names, and it did not matter which baby it was, we found girls' names slightly easier, but my word, the battles we had over boys'
Really?
names. Oh my goodness, yes. He would come out with some ridiculous suggestions. Usually like a variation of the surname of a footballer that he liked, and I'd be like,
oh God,
what are you doing? I'd suggest a name and he'd be like, why this? And I'd be like, I like that name. And then we'd come to blows over it, and then I'd be like, but I'm the one that has to give birth, so back it up, buddy. Like,
that's what I was gonna say,
this is my name choice. And he'd just be like, you know, I get a say as well. We'd just back and forth. So that would have been ingenious for us, because we could not agree on anything. And I think Reuben bizarrely popped up. I wanted to call him Jasper all the way through pregnancy, and that's what I've been calling him. I'd rumbling about it constantly. And then we were in the delivery room and we both mentioned Reuben on our list at some point, and sort of gone, it's not one that we're massively attached to. Like, I was hella attached to Jasper. But at the time, we were both sort of like, it's okay. And then I ended up having an emergency C-section, and I was on the table, and I said to him, I can't hear Reuben crying. And he was like, who the hell is Reuben? He was like, what we're calling it? Cool, whatever, that's fine. We had a bit of a rough birth with Reuben. Other two, much better. So with him, I think at the time, Adam was just so overwhelmed and a bit panicked that he was like, whatever. And
whatever you want.
Whatever you want. You can call him A64 if you want. I don't whatever you want to call this child, please just be okay. And that's how we ended up naming him, was because I just suddenly, out of nowhere, after all these months of battling,
it just hit you.
It just was like, that's what he's called, and that was it. So it's really weird. I think sometimes you've got these names that you agree on, and Edith, we didn't name her for a week.
I was actually going to ask you, I was going to say, like, did you, going into each of your pregnancies, did you kind of have the names prepared, or did you want to, you know, meet the baby first? Because everyone takes a different approach.
We planned to have the names pre-agreed, and then we were just agreeing on things. That was kind of with Reuben. I think with Toby, he's Tobias. He's actually Tobias Aluko. Aluko is a Hull City footballer's surname.
I can guess who chose that.
Adam. And I was like, I really like Aluko. I actually like Tobias Aluko. I like that.
It's really nice.
It suits him. It was one of those that I was like, fine, let's just go with it. I'm not going to argue with you. Let's do it. And we kind of had that in situ. And then with Edith, we weren't sure whether we liked Edith or Aurora. So we called her both to see which one fitted. Poor child. And then we eventually settled on that and went and registered her with it. Naming was hilarious in our household.
Yeah, I think it's like a bit of give and take, right? Although I do feel, I have to say, I was listening to you say that and I'm thinking, I feel like moms should get a little bit more, like, I don't know, is it like a 60-40 split or something that we should get? Because also I think this is something that I was saying to my friend yesterday, that again, I didn't anticipate this, but I'm so aware I have this little human. Previously, maybe I thought, well, when you're pregnant, you know, you're having a baby, but actually, like, you know, I'm aware, and we had a 3D scan. And so now it's like, okay, I've seen this baby's face, right? And so I really feel like everything's already changed for a mom once they're pregnant. You're adapting and making sacrifice. And you're so acutely aware, like you're feeling all the movement, and you're so aware that you've got this little human on board, which is obviously different for their father. They're not going to have that same thing. So I do think maybe moms do get a little bit more of a say, maybe, on the name.
After the debacle of trying to name our kids, I'm 100% with you there. I was quite adamant that, you know, a big portion of this decision was going to be me. And we did. Yeah. Obviously we did. We talked it out.
Yeah.
I was quite firm that I wanted the overall say. You are so aware, and I do think things change for the person that is carrying that child, because you've already kind of built that bond and you've already adapted so much of your life to accommodate this child, whereas your partner might not have that experience of being pregnant. I do think that makes a big difference. I know Adam always sort of said to me, for him it really kind of hit home when the baby was plonked in his arms, whereas this has hit home for me months ago.
Yeah.
Totally different thing for each respective partner, depending on what's happening. And it's so different for everyone.
Absolutely. I think these are just things you learn with your first pregnancy as well, right? It's that you know that when a woman is pregnant, she can feel the baby moving, and you hear all these things, and friends even tell you, right? And they're like, oh, baby's moving, or they kicked or whatever. And you're like, no, it's lovely. But when it actually happens to you, no, because you're like, oh, that's so cute. Your brain, well, my brain certainly, maybe it's just a me thing, but my brain didn't really tell me, like, no, you're gonna really feel like a leg or a fist, or like if she moves, you're gonna see where like her bum is sticking out or whatever. So I mean, again, it's what I always come back to is that I'm so grateful, right? It's such an amazing experience that I think you can't really lose sight of how crazy it is what your body's doing, and that it can do it, and how natural it is, even if it feels a bit strange at times, like how it's, you know, what it was designed to do. So yeah, I am so grateful to be able to sit here and say, like, oh, I can see my child moving at night when I lie down. It's crazy.
It's a miracle, really, that your body do these things. And it is, as with everything with your body, it should be celebrated, even if you're not feeling positive about it at the time. You know, your body is a wonderful thing. So thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, it's been wonderful to chat all things pregnancy and just to relive some of my memories as well. 10 years since I had my first pregnancy, so it's so lovely to hear some of the things with yours. So will you tell people who are listening exactly where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. My handle is @I'm Laura Lou, the best place you can find me. Hopefully I'll be able to share lots of good content in terms of like feeling good about your body at every stage of pregnancy, when you're not pregnant and beyond.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. And I am really looking forward to seeing your journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for having me. It was so lovely to hear about your experiences as a mom as well. It really is informative and I love it. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.